Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. It's April from China Visa team and also today's host and speaker. Firstly, let's see how many parts going to included in this webinar. So first one is about China, and the second one is the visa terms introduction. And third one is the major part of this webinar, which is about the FAQ. And also we created the scenarios for each question to help you understand the questions better and easier. So after that, we're going to have the Q&A part. All the questions you submitted to us while you're registering this webinar will be answered. Okay, let's go to the first one, which is about China. So in this video you just watched, it shows that China is backed by TAL, one of the top education brands in all of China, which means China is a very stable company. And China is focusing on helping transfer the lives of international professionals who wish to work abroad in China. And during the whole transition period, we also provide the full life and visa support to ensure that it's a smooth and comfortable transition. If you'd like to know about China more, please feel free to visit our website, which is china.com, or our YouTube channel and Instagram and Facebook. Well, let's go to the next part, which is some basic visa terms introduction. So first one is the Z visa, work type, resident permit, and T visa. So for Z visa, this is the visa you applied overseas with the work permit and all the other necessary documents. The Z visa will only be valid for 3 months. You will need to enter China within the 3 months. Upon arrival, your Z visa will transfer to a 30 days valid Z visa. Within the 30 days, you will need to transfer to the work type residence permit, which is the next term we're going to introduce to you guys. So the work type residence permit is, most of you guys are asking, this kind of visa will be expired when you're outside of China now, but how are you going to deal with that kind of issue, which will be included in the FAQs? Well, for the next one is T visa. If by the end of your employment with your employer, they will cancel your residence permit and you will get a T visa, which usually will be 30 days validity, which you will need to leave China before it's expired. Well, let's move on to the next one, which is work permit notification and work permit. So work permit notification is one of the necessary documents you need to provide it while you applying for the Z visa overseas. And work permit is something upon your arrival in China with the work permit and Z visa that transfer to. It's like a card. It's very similar to your driver's license. So why we are going to introduce some basic visa terms to you. The first one reason is after you know that the difference between these terms, you could ask the questions more clear, because you want to know that what happens if your visa get expired. You need to specify what type of the visa. And then the person who's going to answer your question will provide a more accurate answer to you. And the next reason is after you know this kind of basic visa terms, you could understand the next part, FAQ part, much more better. Okay, talking about the FAQ, let's move on to this part. During the FAQ, there are going to be 5 questions. The first one is just like you expected. When will the entry restriction policy get lifted? But I'm afraid that I have to say we don't know, and nobody knows yet. So what we need to do is, we even don't know what the time the restriction policy will be lifted, but what we could do is to do some prediction, which means we need to analyze the epidemic status, which is the virus outbreak situation in China and outside of China. So if it's in China, it's already settled, it's getting better, but we also need to consider another side, which is outside of China. It's obviously not that clear so far, so we need to combine these two factors to do some prediction. But as the entry restriction policy was released, it's just out of sudden, right? We didn't get any signal. Maybe we will assume that the entry restriction policy will be lifted at any time. So we will need to get prepared. So if you are going to come to China, once the restriction policy is lifted, what you need to get prepared. Because you know that entering China might ask you to have the mandatory 14 days quarantine. Have you get ready for that? And also there are going to be some costs occurred. Have you get ready for it? Have you talked to your hiring agency or your employer about this? And also during the quarantine, will your employer arrange any training or they will assign any online jobs to you? Have these been talked about, right? You will need to know that these kind of things you need to get prepared in advance. And let's move on to the next one, which is also beside that kind of situation, you also need to get prepared from the visa. So from the visa perspective, no matter you are at which stage, for example, you are preparing your documents, you are applying for the WPN, or you got the WPN applying for the Z visa, or you're facing that Z visa expiration issue. No matter at which stage, you need to know what you need to do is something you need to get prepared right now, because you need to talk to your employer. Just like I mentioned again and again, keep communicating with your employer or your hiring agency is very important, because that makes you guys on the same page. No matter what kind of the news will be updated, you will on the same page and you will work on it together. So after these questions, even though we don't know the answer, but we provide some information to you. And also we will keep you updated on our Facebook, Instagram, or any other channels. After this question, let's go into some specific one. For each question, we have the topic. So first one is, if you are the new applicant of the Z visa, please see what the scenario it is. So case one, Davis, who's in the US now, has obtained the work permit application of a training school required for processing the Z visa. And he is going to apply for a Z visa in the States recently to enter mainland China. So what should Davis do now? Our suggestion, for China suggests Davis applying for the Z visa when current entry restriction is over. Why? Because we don't know that when the entry restriction policy will be lifted. We will need to take advantage of the work permit application's validity. It will be valid for 3 months. We would like to apply for the work permit application by the end of the validity of your WPN, which is work permit application. So take advantage of these 3 months as much as you can. And after you apply for the work permit application, after you apply for the Z visa will also have a 3-month validity. So, and also one more thing is you need to check with your consulate or the visa center and see when will they back to work. Because without them, you cannot apply for a Z visa, even you know that your WPN will be expired very soon. Okay, the first question is pretty easy and pretty straightforward. Let's go for another one, which is about the Z visa expiration issue. Let's see the scenario. So case 2, Corner, who has obtained the Z visa issued on February 22nd. if he could not enter China before his Z visa expired around May 22nd, then what should Davis do now? And what should he be aware of in advance? So our suggestion, firstly, we suggest David, it should be Connor, sorry about that. We suggest Connor asking his employer for the new WPNs. And after Connor communicated with his employer will go to the local Foreign Export Bureau to ask what's going to be the process applying for a new work permit application. And after that, we will know if Davis will need to apply for a new background check and also legalize it with employer's instruction. So there are going to be the two steps. First step, Connor, these candidates ask his employer if he needs to apply for a new background check. Of course, his employer will also need to consult the local Foreign Export Bureau and see what should be the process. Okay, but if you got the answer from the Foreign Export Bureau, you will need to follow the instruction to apply for the new background check and also to legalize it. Again, since the consulate or the embassy which has not back to work, you will need to wait for it to do the last step of your legalization, which is authentication. But if you keep eyes on Korea China's news, we will keep you updated. Okay, after the second one, let's go and see what's in the third one. Residence permit expiration issue. That is for someone who's stuck outside of China with the valid residence permit. What the case? Sam, a foreign employee of a company in Beijing, will not be able to enter mainland China due to the entry restriction. His residence permit is about to expire on May 27th this year, and now he's in the UK. So now Sam is asking whether he could enjoy the auto extension visa policy for 2 more months. To answer the question, he cannot. The reason is this policy is only applying to the expats currently living in mainland China. So that's the reason he cannot enjoy. But our point for this question is the blue words. If Sam and his employer both agree that they will continue their employment, they already settled the employment status, and once the entry restriction policy is lifted, this company and also Sam himself would like to come to China ASAP. So if that's the case, what should they do? There are going to be two parts. So the employer of Sam will need to consult the local Foreign Export Bureau to extend the work permit of Sam. And then at the meantime, Sam will need to ask the local consulate or the visa center and see if he can use the work permit card or the digital copy of the work permit to apply for the Z visa. And if the answer from the consulate or the visa center is yes, then Sam will hold the valid Z visa and valid work permit. After entering China, the employer will be able to help Sam to transfer the Z visa with the valid work permit to the residence permit. So that will resolve this kind of residence permit expiration issue, since we cannot extend the residence permit while the expat is living outside of China. Okay, this case is a bit complicated. It's only a possible solution provided to you guys. If you don't understand, or if you cannot fully understand, maybe how refer Korea China to your employer or to your current hiring agencies And we are happy to offer these possible solutions to them to make sure you could avoid to go through the whole process again. Okay, so make sure that if you don't understand or your employers would like to have this possible solution provided by us, let them contact us, Korea China. Okay, after the third one, the last one of this FAQ. It's about the auto extension of visa policy. I believe you guys are focusing on the note beside the topic, which is in some cities, this policy is no longer valid. So far, as Korea China known, Nanjing and Changsha, these two cities, the policy of auto extension of visa is no longer valid. But maybe there are some more cities which we don't know. If you guys know that kind of news, please post and share with other experts who are listening to this webinar. But so far, we know that there are going to be more and more cities will not have this kind of policy valid, because this policy is only a temporary policy, it's not a permanent one. Let's see the case. So Eric is holding an M visa with multiple entries, and he has to exit the border by May 29th. But once he exits, he will not be able to re-enter any city in mainland China. So what should he do now? Well, it's pretty simple for this question. Since we have the auto extension of visa policy, he would be able to stay 60 more days, but it's only be valid for some cities. If you would like to know, please double check with your local foreign expert bureau, and always check with the foreign expert bureaus or the should be public security bureaus. If you check with them, you find out that, okay, it's no longer valid, well, then you have to leave China before May 29th, before your visa expired. But if it's still valid in your city, that would be good. But please remind that it's always changing. Due to the pandemic, the policy is always changing. You need to be careful, and since it's your visa, you will need to be responsible to double check and always keep eyes on it. And also to remind your employer to check how things going. Is it still valid in your city, right? Okay. Besides this, what we would like to talk about is if it's already after the 60 more days, is that possible Eric can stay longer? If it's okay, what should they do? So firstly, is it possible? It's not what we can decide it. You need to check with the local PSB to see if it's possible, and if it's possible, what the process it would be. Maybe you need to provide some supporting materials and waiting for the results. The supporting materials, for example, some materials showing that your flight got suspended or your flight got rescheduled, and some living guarantee letters provided by your employer. It's showing here, but it's not limited to these two. You need to refer to the local PSB's requirements. If they require more, if you want to stay longer, you need to provide what they required. So please remember that always check the local one, local PSB, because if you heard some friend can stay longer, apply for an extension in Beijing, but you are in Shanghai, it will not apply to you. You need to check with the Shanghai PSB, and always check by the time you need to apply for it, because it's always changing. Maybe in April you ask for that, and you know that it will be that kind of documents list, but by May, it might not be the case anymore. Okay, always remember communicating with your employer or your hiring agency And remember, the policy or the rules can only apply to some specific cities or some specific bureaus. And always remember that the policy is changing due to the pandemic, due to the virus outbreak. It's always changing. Okay, keep these 4 things in your mind. Well, after the FAQ part, let's move on to the next, which is this part. We're going to talk about the questions you submitted to us. Let's see what the question is. So first one is, will we have to pay for another visa? If your current visa, no matter it's Z visa or residence permit, is expired, yes, you will need to pay for another visa. And the next one, during the webinar, will previous visas that expired be talked about? This email has given me hope that I can just renew my visa and continue with my application process. It's our pleasure that our webinar or our email has given you the hope, but we have to say that we cannot answer your question now because the information you provided to us is not in detail. We do not want to direct you to the wrong direction to work on. If you are listening to this webinar or watching our video right now, please email us with the detailed questions of your issue, and then we will try to reply to you ASAP. Okay, thank you. And then next one, work visa, extended visa while outside of China. Okay, so if you're currently outside of China, the visa cannot be extended, no matter it's Z visa or residence permit. But we already provide a possible solution in the 3rd FAQ, which is have your employer extend your work permit if you are going to continue the employment. And you now need to consult your consulate or your visa center and see if it's possible to use work permit to apply for the Z visa. Okay, hopefully this solve your problem. And the next one, I'm a former employee of a training school. My contract expired on 21st of March this year. I was given an extension of 2 months by the government due to the coronavirus epidemic. My flight for 7th of May was cancelled. The company moved my ticket to 2nd of June. Can you help me convince my employer to extend my visa for 2 weeks to be able to get a flight? Okay, to answer the question 1, can we help convince your employer to extend your visa for 2 weeks? So firstly, as a third party, we cannot solve the problem between your employer and you, the first one. But the second point is to extend your visa for 2 more weeks is not something your employer could be able to decide. It will be decided by the local PSB, local Public Security Bureau, not something could be decided by your employer. So you will need to consult the local PSB and see what the result. And also, since your flight will be fly out on 2nd of June, so I believe it's not necessary to extend 2 more weeks. It only needs to be extended to the 2nd of June to make sure you could stay legally in China until your flight could fly out. Okay, so that's my answer. If you like to talk to us about this more, please feel free to post on the chat box. And work visa as English teacher, how to easily transfer work visa to another school in the same province? Well, it's a good question. So in the same province, there are still a lot of cities two different cities might have different rules, different requirements for the visa transfer. So if you're asking how to easily transfer, I will give you the suggestion, ask someone who are professional to do the work. Because if it's someone professional, they will help you to save time, save the money, and also do that successfully. Otherwise, if you are taking risk to do that by yourself, you might lose the chance staying in China. And leave China now is not a smart choice. You will not be able to enter China until the entry restriction policy is lifted. Okay, let's move on and see what the next. Can foreign buyers visit China now? Any obligations when entering China? So firstly, answer the first question. Sorry, you cannot enter China unless it's emergency. I'm not sure if the foreign buyer, the business is emergency, but if it's not, you cannot until the entry restriction policy is lifted. And after the policy is over, any obligations when entering China? We don't know because different cities have different requirements. We assume that you would have the 14 days quarantine, but besides the quarantine, what else are required? You need to ask the local cities related department and see what gonna be their requirements for you. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. It's a long story. You guys can have a look of it. Since we already read it, we need to do some homework for this webinar, right? So this lady and her husband are stuck in India, and they already got the work permit and resident permit valid till 2021, and they would like to know when they will be able to back to China, since they already work for a company for more than 10 years. We really appreciate your loyalty, and even though we cannot assure that when this entry restriction policy will be over, because we don't know and nobody knows so far, but that's good. Your resident permit will be valid until 2021, so you still got plenty of time to wait for the restriction policy is over. Okay, but if you can just keep in touch with China, we will keep you guys updated. The next question, and also the last question, is I was in the process of applying for my visa for a proposed start date in Changsha on May 6, 2020. Do I still have employment in China for when the restrictions are lifted? And is there any proposed date for when that would be? The last question answered already, so we don't know yet, but we will keep eyes on it. And if you're our candidate, if you're a China candidate, we will keep you updated as well. For the first question, as long as your hiring agency and your employers are saying, okay, the employment or the offer is still valid, yes, you still have the employment in China. But please, like I mentioned, I stressed again and again, please keep communicating with your employer or your hiring agency, so you guys can on the same page. You will get prepared for any change. That would be good for all of you, no matter it's for your for the candidate yourselves or your employer or your hiring agencies. Okay, after this Q&A part, let's see, do we have any other questions from this webinar? And I believe my assistant has already helped me to organize the questions. Well, the question 1, my work permit notification is gonna expire soon, but I can't apply for Z visa because my city is locked down. What should I do now? Yeah, in some situation, it's very, I would say, familiar because I was asked by a teacher. If that's the case, I'm afraid you will need to let your employer or your hiring agency to apply for a new WPN because your current one is almost expired, and we are not sure, or we cannot assure that before it's expired you could enter China. So please talk to your employer or hiring agency and see if they are able to apply for a new WPN for you. Okay, then let's move on to the next one. Question 2. Staying at Nanjing for 2 years already. Do you have any opportunity in Hangzhou? Maybe? Thanks. This question is a good question. This question will be answered in the following part of my webinar. Please wait. Let's move on to the next one. Question 3. Can I extend my resident permit? It will expire soon in June, but I'm not in China at present. So what should you do, right? Just like I provided a possible solution to you or your employer, that as long as you and your employer both agree that you will continue the employment, they should be able to extend your work permit. And then, in the meantime, you will need to check with your consulate or the visa center to see if they will be able to accept you using the work permit to apply for the Z visa. Okay, and by then, if you hold the Z visa, valid one, and the valid work permit, you will be able to enter China and transfer the Z visa to resident permit. You cannot extend the resident permit, but you could apply for Z visa and doing a lot of things and doing the transfer upon arrival. Okay, the last one. I cannot find my diploma during school transfer. Is that going to be an issue? It would really depend on your situation. At which, so you're working in which city and which city you will be transferred to. That all matter. So please ask some professional to see how you should deal with your current situation. Okay, cool. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email us, and I will show you the email address later. And we're gonna finish the Q&A part by now. Let's move on to the next one. I believe put loads of visa information to you, make your brain exhausted. But this part is a bit easier and take some break. So besides the recruitment, what other things we provide? So first one, China is providing the TOEFL course. We're providing a better TOEFL program for our candidate. So if you would like to have the TOEFL course, if you're looking for it, please contact China. We're providing a really good TOEFL program for our candidates or any potential candidates. Next one, oh, it's very popular recently, an online teaching position. You could be able to work from home. No matter you are stuck outside of China or you're staying in China and waiting for your school or your company back to work, you could apply for this online teaching position through China. But please remember, update your resume and also provide your teaching demo at the same time while you're applying for the online teaching position. Okay, besides online teaching position, we also provide diversified offline job opportunities. If you fulfilled your contract and you would like to looking for another city or another employer to work for, you can contact us. Still, up-to-date resume and a teaching demo are required. Okay. Besides these three, what's the last one? Wow, visa service. As the teachers or any of you guys just asked, do we provide the transfer visa service? Yes, we do. We are professional and we can save you time and to limit the risk to the minimum. Okay, so all these kind of services are provided by Career China. Please feel free to contact us. The contact info, here we go. If you got any questions which are not resolved in this webinar, please scan this QR code and add Career China on WeChat, or write emails to our visa support at careerchina.com. We can always provide you the immediate solution, but it always like that. It will be the possible solution because it will be very specific to your case. If you cannot provide detailed information, we can only provide the possible one. Well, also in this Career China WeChat, we're gonna post all the questions of this webinar on the moment. On the moment, they will post all the necessary information of this webinar. Please add this one, and also if you would like to apply for the online positions, contact us. And beside that, if you would like to know more about Career China, visit our website and follow us on Instagram and also Facebook, or have a look of our videos on our YouTube channel. Well, that's the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for your participating and have a good day. Bye-bye.